It is a Monday, which means it is a book day, and my next guest is in the studio now. Getrude Matshe, who has arrived in the UAE to do a series of workshops. Thank you very much for coming in. I do appreciate you taking the time out to join me this afternoon. How are you?
I am good, Andrew. Thank you for having me on the show.
You're very welcome. Is this your first time in the UAE?
No, I've been here a couple of times before.
Here a couple of times.
Yes.
You're originally from Zimbabwe.
Yes.
Grew up in New Zealand. You're a best-selling author.
Yes.
Can you tell us a couple of books that you have written?
My first book was a memoir. It is called Born on the Continent Ubuntu. And I basically chronicled my life growing up in Zimbabwe, studying in the UK, living in Norway, traveling through Denmark, Sweden, Switzerland, and eventually settling in South Africa and now in New Zealand.
Okay. You now in New Zealand, but grown up in
Yes.
a variety of different places. And you've
Correct.
come here to do a series of workshops. You've got a workshop starting on Wednesday in Abu Dhabi. Then you're coming to Dubai and also going to be doing a workshop in Sharjah. We'll get to the details of what you're going to be doing at this workshop. But this is based on your bestseller, How to Write a Book in 40 Hours.
Yes.
And that seems like a fairly brave declaration.
Yes.
But
yes.
you must believe it's true, otherwise you wouldn't have written about it.
It is doable. My first book took me 14 years to write, Andrew.
14 years.
14 years. And the second book took me 40 hours.
Okay.
I developed a process that helps people get the first draft of their book out of their heads in 40 hours. I think that's what holds up a lot of people from writing and completing books, is that people start editing the book as they're writing and then they never get finished. But if you can get the first draft out of your head really quickly, you will get it done.
Right. So is this targeted at people who really want to become authors, or could anyone join in the workshop?
Anyone could join the workshop. I believe that everybody's got a story, Andrew. Everybody's got knowledge, skills, something to leave in the world. And the richest places in the world are graveyards. They're full of people who had brilliant ideas, brilliant life stories, and they didn't have the courage to just put it down on a piece of paper. And I think we change the world through our stories. We really do.
So it could be non-fiction, it could be fiction, it could be all types of story. we're
Yes,
looking at
any
here.
genre.
Would you have to have an idea in your head beforehand?
I've had people who show up at the workshop with no idea, who are just curious to find out about the process. And while they're there, it's a very creative workshop. Ideas do spark. And I've had people who've actually published driving back home from a workshop.
Wow, really?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just trying to get my head around this then. So how did you end up, or was it something that you stumbled on, a process that you hadn't really thought and it just happened?
Yes. I was invited to give a presentation in a bank in New Zealand. Two of the major banks in New Zealand had merged and they had problems with staff morale. So I've got a human resources background. I went in as a change agent, came up with a title called It's Not About What Happens That Matters. And I told 10 stories about my major life challenges. I gave people a feedback form before I started speaking, and I asked them to write down any questions that came up for them while I was speaking or anything that really hit home. And at the bottom of this form, I said, today's presentation is based on a book that I want to write. Would you like a copy? It's $25. And I pre-sold 485 copies.
Wow.
Before I'd even written the book. So I was highly motivated to write this book.
Or the other way of looking at it is that you had to write this book, otherwise you just stolen a load of cash from people.
Yes. So I basically got the questions and collated them into a logical sequence. And I answered the questions with a dictaphone. I just recorded myself answering the questions and got that transcribed. So that was the first draft of the book. It was me speaking, recording myself speaking and getting it transcribed. And then I sat back and worked with it, got my editors in. And before I knew it, I had the book published on Amazon and on Kindle.
So is that the key then? Is it making sure that you note down, or either writing down your thoughts, your thought processes, or, as you said, using a dictaphone to ensure that those thoughts are not lost in the memories and the hazy memories of the back of your mind?
I actually sleep with a notebook on the side of my bed because my brilliant ideas come at 2 a.m. in the morning.
I think in many people's that's true.
Yeah, so you have to catch it while it's there.
We will talk about the workshops that you're going to be doing in Abu Dhabi. This is happening on Wednesday. Then you've got one in Dubai happening on Saturday, March the 28th, and then one in Sharjah on Saturday, April the 4th. We'll discuss that after Canzona from Are Mercanto. Speaking to Getrude Matshe, who is an author, best-selling author, and also you do quite a lot of other things. I'm just been reading through everything that you do. You're a speaker. You own a number of companies. You are a you run or did run a talent agency, and you actually supplied extras for the likes of Avatar.
Yes.
And you've started medical recruiters, but more importantly, you're doing these workshops in the UAE starting this week, and it is based on your book, How to Write a Bestseller in 40 Hours. How to write a book in 40 hours, not necessarily a bestseller. And that's up to how good you are, I suppose, as writing. But your workshops are based on this book. So what does the workshop entail?
Well, in this workshop, we take people through a process where they really have to think about their book concept. They have to think about their branding, their personal branding strategy, what's going to make them stand out. Self-publishing has meant that there is a world full of self-published books right now, and you really have to have a strong point of difference. We work on the book structure, and by the time people leave the workshop, they've recorded probably 2 or 3 chapters of the book already, which will get transcribed for them.
All right, okay.
We'll work on the book cover design and show them how to self-publish on both Amazon and on Kindle.
So when you say self-publish, what does that actually mean?
Well, the traditional way of producing books is you would go to a book publisher and pitch your book story, and they will take you through, help you with the writing and the editing, and publish the book. These days, that model is dying. A lot of publishing companies have actually closed down because people can do all of this online for themselves. So anybody can write a book. The challenge will come in how do you sell it? How do you get out there? How do you use social media to get your own intellectual property or content sold?
I was going to ask, how does that generate revenue?
It is very lucrative if you know how. A lot of people will write a book. If you go to a traditional publisher, unless you're famous, you might get a
rejection letter.
Exactly. Or they might give you an advance, depending on how good the book is. But going forwards, you probably will earn 20, 30 cents a copy when the book is sold. When you self-publish, you get 100% profit.
Right.
So it is very lucrative if you know how to sell. And part of the selling process is what we will talk about in the workshop as well.
But then the workshop will show you that, but also I'm assuming taking that idea, and as you said, you get your first bits and bobs down on paper. It's all transcribed for you.
Yes.
What happens then? Editing your text.
Well, I have developed a process, and I have all of the experts that can take you from A to Z. So we have a set of graphics designers who will help with the book cover concept, your branding style guide. We have a team of editors who work with all of the authors that we are coaching. We will take you through from beginning to end after the workshop. So it's not like you come to a 4-hour workshop and then you're stuck. There is a continuum to the workshop as well.
Because that's often the problem, isn't it? You
Yes.
go along to do something, you go home with plenty of ideas in your head, then you never hear from anybody again.
Yes.
And you get back into your daily routine, and all
book never
those
gets
wonderful,
done.
inspirational thoughts you had have disappeared again back into the background.
Yeah, no, we really want to help authors to go from A to Z.
We'll play music from James Horner, and then we'll continue our conversation. We're in the book section of Emirates Live, and in the coming couple of weeks we have 3 workshops, one happening in Abu Dhabi, one happening in Dubai, and one happening in Sharjah. This is based on the book How to Write a Book in 40 Hours. Getrude Matshe is the person in charge of that, the person who is doing the workshop. And this is all based on the thought that everybody has a story in them, and you are there to encourage people to actually explore that.
Yes. I call myself the book midwife. I show up for people when they're ready to birth their stories. The labor will be painless, effortless, and fun.
There we are. This is all happening. The first one is in Abu Dhabi this coming Wednesday. How can people find out more and register?
They can go onto the website.
amiando.com/my first book Abu Dhabi. amiando.com/my first book Abu Dhabi. And this is on from 5:30 to 9 o'clock. And so you're looking at 3.5 hours happening at the Sawa Zaidan Gallery on Saadiyat Island. And in those 3.5 hours, what topics do you look at?
We will look at the book structure, personal branding, creating the chapters of the book, recording at least the first 3 chapters, and showing people how to publish the book both on Amazon and on Kindle.
All right. So even if you don't really have a clear idea in your head about what story you want to write, the workshop will help you work through all that as well.
Definitely worth coming to learn the process so that when you do develop a book idea, you have the tools to do it.
amiando.com/my first book Abu Dhabi. Then you're moving on to Dubai and doing the workshop on Saturday, March the 28th, Showcase Gallery in Al Sakal Avenue. Again, the same website, amiando.com/my first book. And then you move on to Sharjah the following Saturday, April the 4th, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. That's at the Maraya Art Centre, My First Book Sharjah, after amiando.com. Go on to amiando.com, My First Book, and you'll be able to work your way through to the correct workshop as to which you prefer to go to.
And we're also on Facebook.
And you're also on Facebook as well, My First Book, facebook.com/My First Book.
How to write a book in 40 hours,
Sorry,
Dubai.
How to write a book in 40 hours, Dubai. Getrude, Matshe, thank you so much for coming in today.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.